What's good? What's good? I'm doing my laundry. It's laundry day, so I'm wearing literally some swimming trunks and my Rocco shirt that I got for $1. One whole dollar at the thrift store. Anyways, well, it's kind of related because I think the subject of this video is going to be speaking of material conditions. A few videos back, I made a video titled something like Anarcho-Communism is a Myth. And I mentioned that Marx talks about in comments, one of his biggest critiques of capitalism is this notion that the introduction of capital alienates humans from the material conditions of reality. And I think in his narrow conception of that, he is wrong. What I believe is that the introduction of governments is actually what alienates individuals from material reality. And what do we mean by material reality? I mean by the ground we live on, the ground that we extract resources from, that we farm, that we mine, anything that is tangible that you can touch and interact with, material reality. And so Marx posits that capital and the introduction of it creates a working class and a ruling class, and I do not necessarily disagree with that, but I think he fails to connect the dots between capital and the government, and how when they work in conjunction, or when the government utilizes capital, or when the government creates a monopoly on the issuance of currency, as like most countries have. What do I mean by that? Money. You can't just go make your own money, and that's where Bitcoin they're trying to regulate and restrict for that very reason, because it does enable us to remove the government from trade and exchange, which I believe actually brings us closer to our material reality when we remove that governmental layer. And so when I think about capitalism, that's what I think about, is the free exchange of goods and services. And so many people get stuck on the word capital, and I get it, because when the government has a monopoly on the issuance of currency, they control capital. But when I think of capital, I think of resources and ways to store value. So gold, for example, is a resource, and it is a really good store of value. Why is it a good store of value? Because it is a highly versatile metal, which is partially why it is so valuable. And that versatility means that there will always be a demand for it. Capital can also be the production of your labor, of your efforts. That is capital. The resources you have available within you. So it's not a good store of value. You can't just in an instant create value from your efforts, but over time you can create systems and mechanisms and tools and techniques. And so what makes free trade amazing is that different forms of capital can interact within the market, which can bring people together, which can enable efficiencies, it can enable networking, it can enable community. So for example, I'm a really good massage therapist. I see farm people and I see them walking in pain, and I think to myself, gosh dang, I wish there was a way that I could help them experience less pain while feeding myself. And there is a perfect exchange right there. Now, why does the government need to be involved in that? They don't. that is just two people interacting with their material reality and exchanging capital to create a synergistic relationship. That is capitalism. There's nothing totalitarian about it. There's nothing authoritarian about it. You have been duped to believe that capitalism is bad. You probably have a skill that you can provide to your community. Without the intervention of the government, you are naturally, materially participating in your reality. It is not the introduction of capital. It is the introduction of government, which enables the monopolization of the issuance of currency, that creates conflict within your material reality. Essentially, we're talking about what Marx described as material dialecticism. I'm not an intellectual, so I got that wrong. Let me try to say that again. Material dialecticism. And what he gets wrong, or what he fails to acknowledge, is that humans are not robots. Humans are not going to, in any meaningful and willingful capacity, they're not going to self-organize into an egalitarian society where of each according to their ability, to each according to their need, which he believes can come about by implementing a massive socialist state to first create the systems, mechanisms, and institutions that will ultimately, over time, wither away into a voluntary society. What sounds more plausible to you? Humans freely interacting with one another, exchanging energies among one another. And I love energy and currency because these are what is current in an electrical sense. When you're talking about a house, when you're wiring a house, what is the current? It's the electricity flowing through the circuit. And it's so cool, these overlaps between these science concepts and words and our material reality, because that's what we're doing. We are energetic beings interacting with other energy. So what's more plausible? Free energetic exchanges for humanity, sovereignty, freedom, liberty, or a massive, massive collective authoritarian state that runs everything? You've been duped into believing what capitalism is and is not. You've been duped into believing that Marx had great ideas. You've been duped and it sucks, but I'm here to undupe you. I think we're going to end it there. Capitalism with no state is just the free exchange of energy. When you introduce the state and when you introduce restrictions into the system, you are artificially manipulating the material conditions. And that's no bueno. That is no bueno indeed. Thank you very much for listening. Much love.